Hi everyone, this is John with Sir Winston Honeybees. Today is Monday, July 31st. It's the last day of July, everybody. And hey, I'm here at the apiary. It is 72 degrees. And the reason I'm out here on a Monday is because today we're doing something that's very important to our colonies, our hives. And what we're doing today is we're treating our hives with for Varroa, all right? And so let's talk a little bit about the Varroa mite. So the Varroa is a mite. It's called Varroa Destructor, and it's been around, well, it's been around forever, obviously. It's been around for thousands of years, but it was discovered in the early 1900s, I believe somewhere in Asia, maybe Europe, and didn't make its way to the United States, or wasn't discovered in the United States really till around the mid-1980s. And if you remember, in the 1980s, there was a lot of talk about this thing called colony collapse disorder, right? If you ask beekeepers why they're getting into beekeeping, obviously, you know, a lot of them say, well, you know, we want to help the environment, we want to save the bees, etc. And so the saving the bees really comes from this idea of this colony collapse disorder. And, you know, while there are many reasons for colony collapse disorder, and one of them can be pesticides, we believe that the most important reason why colonies were collapsing at this time was because of this Varroa mite. So, the Varroa Destructor, what does it do? It attaches itself to the honeybee and basically sucks out their fat cells, right? Or their fat bodies, if you will. And that leads to various diseases in the honeybee, which, you know, we call Apis mellifera, all right? And so one of the most common diseases that we see in the honeybee is we've deformed wing virus, but there's multiple viruses that come from Varroa mites. And of course, the biggest one, of course, is that the Varroa mite can kill your entire colony, an entire, you know, hive of bees between now, really, and springtime, when we want to, you know, have our bees re-emerge and start collecting pollen and nectar again, so we can have another great year of beekeeping. And of course, the most important thing for you and I is to have honey. So what do we do, right? So what do we do? So what we want to do is we go into our hive, and we've already done this a couple of weeks ago, and we test for mites. And how do we test for mites? Well, there's several ways, but the way that I prefer, and a lot of beekeepers do prefer this particular method, is something called the alcohol wash. Now let me show you this kit here. So what I have is this little kit right here, and it allows us to check for mites. And what we do is we're going to collect, well, first of all, we're going to go into our hive, we're going to find our queen, it's very important, and we're going to isolate her. Because what we want to do is collect about ½ a cup of honeybees. And what we also want to do is we want to collect bees that are generally hanging around near brood. And those are like what we call the nurse bees. And those are the ones that we're going to test for mites. So we collect ½ a cup of them, we shake, you know, that frame into a box, and we get ½ a cup. There's like ½ a measuring cup. We scoop that up, and inside of that will be 300 bees, approximately, right? And we put those bees inside of this thing that has some alcohol in it. And the alcohol has to be about 70% or higher of alcohol content, if you will. And yes, we're going to kill 300 bees. There's other ways you can do it, obviously, that wouldn't kill the bees, but this is the most effective method. Remember, there's tens of thousands of bees in there. And I know it kind of, you know, the good beekeepers, their heart hurts to kill 300 bees, but think about the option, right? I mean, the alternative is your entire colony of bees is going to die. So these bees have to sacrifice for the good of bee kind, so to speak. So you put them in here with the alcohol, you shake them up vigorously for about 2 minutes, and then what you'll do is you look underneath, and you'll count, right? You're going to count, you can see how many mites are in there, and depending on how many mites are in there, you're going to divide that number by 3, and then you're going to get basically a percentage, or a 1 per 100 number of mites in there. So what's bad? Well, for the most part, anything about 5 or more mites is generally not a good count, okay? You don't want anything more than 5. 3 per 100 is really what they say. So anywhere between 3 to 5, beyond that, you might be looking at some trouble. So what you want to do is, you know, because when you think about, this is just 300 mites, tens of thousands of 300 bees, tens of thousands of bees in there, that's a lot of mites, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and treat. Now, the multiple ways of treating for the Varroa mite, but beekeepers, we like to use, you know, what I'm going to use today actually is I'm going to use what's called an oxalic acid. what we're going to do is we're going to treat with this acid right here. And this is called Formic Pro. It's by a company called NOD. And Formic Pro is an oxalic acid. It's a naturally occurring acid. And actually this one comes from ants. We found that, well, they found, I didn't find anything, but they found that that ants produce this naturally occurring oxalic acid called Formic Pro, which does not kill our bees, but it will kill mites. Now, it can hurt the bees, and a lot of times some beekeepers, have found that Formic Pro can damage or sometimes even kill your queen bee, which of course is bad. But again, you're thinking about the alternative, and you have to do what you want to do to prevent your hives from getting killed. All right, so there's multiple types of oxalic acid. During the time that we have brood in the hive, we treat with Formic Pro. And generally I treat with Formic Pro once a year. There's some other treatment methods. In the spring, I'm going to treat with something called oxalic acid, which I will talk about when we actually treat with oxalic acid in the fall, because I treat with that as well in the fall, heading into wintertime. This time of year, what we're finding is that our beekeeping population, or our bee population, starts declining as our queens are laying less eggs. Eventually, they're going to get to a point where they're going to just lay eggs and produce bees of winter physiology. For now, we still have our summer bees that live for about 45 or so days. All right, and so that's what we're going to do. And so as the bee population declines, our mite population starts to increase. And that's one of the things that we have to deal with right now. So we have to control for mites in our hives. So what we're going to do right now is that this is a really quick thing. You're just going to pop the hives open. I'm not even going to have smoke or anything else. Pop the hives open, put the Formic Pro pad in, and you're going to see you're supposed to treat a full two brood box hive with 2 pads. But since, as you know, the bee barns only have 1 deep and 1 medium, so I'm only going to treat with 1 pad per hive. And we're going to leave these in there for 14 days. After 14 days, they have to come out. You don't want them in there, because then you can suddenly get oxalic or Formic Pro resistant mites. We don't want that, right? So we want to make sure that we eliminate or decrease our population of mites. So after 14 days, we're going to leave the hives alone. In 14 days, we're going to go back in, do another alcohol wash, and see what our mite population looks like. And that's the process. So we're going to go ahead and pop these hives open and put the Formic Pro in. I'll show you real quick just in 1 hive, and that'll be it for today. Before I begin, what I want to do real quick is just point out that I have feeders on the hives right now. So what I did was, after we extracted honey last week, I went ahead and put some feeders on because, and again, we've just got a syrup, and I'll just show you my video right here on how to make the best and easiest syrup. But we got feeders on right now just to feed the bees, just to give them some nutrition after the extraction. They say that with Formic Pro, you cannot have feeders on the hive. All right. They say you can have supers on, but if you smell the Formic Pro, it's kind of fumey, so I'm not going to put the feeders on. We're going to have the Formic Pro on for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, we'll evaluate what's going on with the dearth. If we have nectar coming in, we'll put the supers back on. If there's no nectar coming in, we'll feed the bees for a few weeks until we start getting our fall flowers or our fall nectar, which will probably come from goldenrod. So we'll see what happens in 2 weeks, but for now, let's get this Formic Pro onto these hives. So here's our feeder, as you can see, and we're taking most of it, a gallon. And we'll go ahead and remove the queen excluder. We don't need that right now, so we can access. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open up this packet of Formic Pro and just put 1 strip of Formic Pro in this hive that has, again, only 10 frames as opposed to 20. So we'll just treat with 1. You usually use 1 packet for a full 2 deep brood box hive. And these will stay in there for 14 days again. Alright. Just move some bees out of the way. Oh, they don't like it. They get all testy about it. Just lay it right on top. Whew. Go ahead and put this back on. What I did was, just for a little venting, I just went ahead and opened this up with the vent You're going to see these bees in about 20 minutes. They're going to be bearding outside of this hive. All right, so that's it. Formic Pro is in our hives right now. We got our blue hive and our green hive, both with Formic Pro inside of them. One thing that I forgot to mention is, why am I treating this particular week? Well, this week our temperatures are going to be in the 70s, maybe hit 80 on Thursday. So Formic Pro, one of the recommendations is that it has a temperature range that you should be treating between 50 and 85 degrees. So since we're inside of that range right now, we're going to go ahead and treat, because who knows in a couple of weeks if it gets super hot again. It's been really, really warm last week and the week before. So this week is kind of like a little envelope for a lot of beekeepers to go ahead and treat their hives. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. By the way, I'm going to remind you, as always, to subscribe and like my videos so we get some more viewers and we get some more people who are interested in beekeeping. This is my 3rd year beekeeping. I'm starting to get it, I think. Not exactly an expert yet, but I'm getting closer. All right. Thank you so much for watching. As always, my name is John. I'm with Sir Winston Honeybees, and happy bees, everybody.